They laughed behind his back. His wife, her sister, her mother, his best friend, a whole web of betrayal woven from lies and contempt. But every deception leaves traces, and when the truth surfaces, the world collapses with a deafening roar. He was loyal, reliable, willing to sacrifice for his family. They mistook it for weakness. But they were wrong. 5 days ago, he found messages that exposed everything. Lies, betrayal, financial schemes, and behind it all stood his own family. Now, armed with evidence and fury, he's ready to tear their plans apart and burn their rotten empire of deceit to the ground. They thought he would stay silent. He will become their worst nightmare. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now let's get started. There was a time when I believed that love and trust were enough, that being a good man would be its own reward. I held on to that illusion like it could protect me. I know better now. My name is Carter Buford, and what you're about to read isn't just a story of betrayal. It's the unraveling of a life I thought I understood. Just 5 days ago, I stood motionless in my kitchen, Brielle's iPad in my hands, staring at a message thread I was never meant to see. It was a chat titled Family Only, shared between my wife Whitney, her sister Lana, and their mother Aveline. The messages stretched back for years, and with each one, the blade drove deeper. "He's so passive," Whitney had written. Lana responded with a mocking, "He doesn't have it in him to stand up for himself," followed by a laughing emoji. Then Aveline, without a shred of conscience, "Drain his accounts while he's too dumb to notice. He won't stop you. He's weak." I saw now how they ridiculed me, for choosing to turn down a career-advancing promotion so I could spend more time with Brielle, for letting Whitney handle the finances, thinking I was being a supportive partner. While I believed I was building a life with my family, they saw me as an easy mark. The spa weekends, the designer bags, the endless home projects, it was all a cover. And the worst part wasn't even the money. It was how completely they despised me for loving them without question. I should have walked away right then, filed for divorce, slammed the door shut, started over. But something inside me fractured in a way I didn't recognize. I couldn't just leave. Not like that. They needed to know what it costs to break someone who gave everything without asking for anything in return. I had spent my life being the reliable one, the steady presence, the man who stayed calm no matter what, and they never once considered what would happen if that man finally decided he'd had enough. That night, while Whitney slept beside me, unaware, I stared at the ceiling, empty, hollow, enraged. My heart pounded like war drums, my hands curled into fists. There was a fire rising in me I'd never felt before. My thoughts went to Brielle, my daughter, the one pure thing I had left. I knew then. Whatever storm was coming, I had to shield her from it, from all of it. From her mother's manipulation, from Aveline's games, from the twisted family legacy they were grooming her for. I made a vow, one I would carry to the bitter end. They would pay for every word in that vile thread. 2 days later, Brielle tugged gently on my sleeve. Her innocent question shattered any lingering hope I had that I was wrong. "Daddy, who's the man that comes to see Mommy when you're not home?" I froze. My phone was still in my hand. "What man, honey?" "The tall one. He wears a ring like yours and Mommy's. He always brings her coffee. They go into her room. They laugh a lot. I think she called him Tristan?" The name struck like a lightning bolt. Tristan Reed, my oldest friend, my best man at our wedding, the guy who introduced me to Whitney at Lana's party, the one who always seemed to be around. Too much, now that I thought about it. And I remembered how Whitney would light up when he entered the room. I had ignored it, rationalized it. But now the pieces fell together, one by one, and the image they formed was devastating. She was sleeping with him. Nausea hit me like a wave. After Brielle skipped off to watch her cartoons, I walked quietly into the living room and tucked a motion-activated camera behind a vase. Whitney was too comfortable, too sure I'd never notice anything. The next day, around noon, the alert came through. The camera had picked something up. I opened the feed and watched, my breath caught in my throat as Tristan's silver truck rolled into the driveway. He strolled inside like he owned the place. They kissed in the entryway, bold, unashamed, not even pretending to hide. And there, on his finger, the ring he still wore, the same one his wife Nora had placed there on their wedding day. They vanished into the bedroom for 2 hours. When he left, he looked like a man who'd just finished a business meeting, calm, smirking. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I just stared at the screen, the coldest kind of rage crawling up my spine. My lawyer once described what Whitney was doing as financial abuse. Now, it was betrayal layered with something even darker, emotional manipulation from both my wife and the one person I'd trusted like a brother. Later that night, I overheard Whitney on the phone with Aveline. Her voice was smug. He won't say a word. Once his bonus lands next week, we'll file. I'll get the house. He's too weak to fight. Her laughter was cruel. Her confidence, unforgivable. That was the last time I allowed myself to feel powerless. I decided right then. I'd let them believe they'd won. I'd let them circle closer to their prize. And when the moment came, I'd gut their plans from the inside. My silence would be the sharpest blade in my arsenal. I went to my attorney, Ms. Pierce, and laid everything out. Videos, screenshots, chat histories. She reviewed it all, her face hardening as she read. "This isn't just a divorce case," she said quietly. "There's serious fraud here. If you want to pursue charges, you'd have grounds." "I don't want it to stop," I told her. My voice had changed, deeper, cold. "I want justice. I want them to feel what I felt." She studied me for a long moment. "I get it. Just promise me. Whatever you do, keep it legal, keep it smart." I nodded. I wasn't going to break the law, but I would use every inch of it to burn everything they'd built, down to the ashes. Tristan wouldn't get the benefit of a private talk. No explanation, no apology. He didn't deserve a peaceful ending. They'd mistaken my decency for weakness for the last time. Now, Aveline's big family dinner was coming up. Everyone would be there. Whitney, Lana, Aveline, their closest friends, the inner circle. It was the perfect time, the perfect place. They didn't know it yet, but the reckoning was already on the calendar. They met every month, without exception, a ritual wrapped in pleasantries, laced with subtle digs, and camouflaged under the illusion of flawless lives. This time, however, I didn't come for the small talk. I had a plan. I'd arranged for Brielle to stay overnight at a friend's place. She couldn't be anywhere near what was about to unfold. I'd agonized for weeks over how to reveal their betrayal, until the perfect chance presented itself. It began with a run-in at the supermarket. Gavin, Lana's husband, found me in the fruit section. "You coming to dinner, man?" he asked, his voice polite but with a tension behind it. I couldn't tell if he knew what Lana had been up to, diverting money from my accounts into hidden reserves. "Wouldn't miss it," I replied, keeping my tone light. He paused for a beat, studying me, then gave a strained laugh. "All right, see you there." He had no idea what I was walking into that house with. None of them did. Saturday arrived. I parked in the semicircle driveway of Aveline's lavish home, a monument to affluence that was, in truth, a stage for deceit and hypocrisy. Manicured hedges, pristine brickwork, towering pillars, everything about the estate screamed prestige, but beneath the polish was rot. Lana greeted me at the threshold. "Carter," she cooed, her grin too wide, too tight. "So glad you made it." "Whitney's helping Mom with the roast. Tonight's going to be wonderful, she added, voice full of fake cheer. Looking forward to it, I said, keeping things neutral. Inside, Aveline and Whitney floated around the kitchen like actresses hitting their marks. Aveline exuded authority, head high, posture impeccable, every motion dripping with command. Whitney, in a breezy sundress and flushed from pretend effort, hadn't lifted a finger in months, unless it served her own ends. "Carter," Whitney said in her usual syrupy tone, the one she saved for when she wanted something. "So sweet of you to come straight from work. Go get comfortable. Lon'll bring you something to drink." I nodded, offered a shallow smile, and took the glass of iced tea Lana handed me. Her eyes met her mother's in a fleeting glance, quick, purposeful. Something was brewing. I could feel it. Once we were all gathered at Aveline's sprawling dining table, she naturally took the reins. "Let's each share a little something from our week," she suggested, as if presiding over a royal court. "Whitney, why don't you start?" Whitney gave her hair a casual toss and launched into her act. "I've been tying up the last details for my business launch," she said, pretending to be humble. "It was supposed to be a secret, but I just can't keep it in anymore. It's going to be huge." She reached out and placed her hand on my arm, and I know my incredible husband will be right there supporting me. There wasn't a trace of modesty in her voice, just expectation. They thought I was still the oblivious husband, their easy mark. What they didn't know was that I'd spent months compiling evidence, covert footage, bank statements, everything neatly filed away in Miss Pierce's office, ready for court. But tonight wasn't just about legal proof. Tonight was about making them see the man they never thought I could be. The doorbell rang, sharp, sudden. Before anyone else moved, I stood. "I'll get it." Outside, the courier I'd hired stood with a stack of manila envelopes. He handed them over without a word and vanished into the darkness. I carried them back inside, quiet and deliberate, and placed one in front of each person at the table. "Before dessert," I said evenly, "I have something to share." Aveline narrowed her eyes. "What is this?" I gestured calmly. "Please, open them." They hesitated at first, but curiosity overpowered caution. As they flipped through the contents, the color drained from their faces. Gasps broke the silence. A few choice expletives followed. Whitney's hands began to tremble. Lana sat frozen, mouth agape. Aveline's expression flattened into something cold and unreadable. Even Gavin looked like he'd been hit with a brick. He thumbed through the pages, eyes wide with disbelief. It was all there, detailed withdrawals masked as household costs, group chats where they mocked me and plotted how to bleed me dry, surveillance photos of Tristan entering my home when I was away at work. Time-stamped, dated, messages from Lana and Whitney planning the timing of a divorce to align with my end-of-year bonus. Aveline orchestrating it all behind the curtain like some twisted conductor. Lana finally whispered, her voice barely audible. "What is all this?" Whitney looked like she might burst into tears. "Carter, how could you do this? This was private." "So was the money you stole," I replied, my voice like steel. "And the affair with my best friend. But you brought those things into my world, so I made them mine to deal with." Aveline slammed her hand down, the sound echoing. "You had no right." "I had every right," I shot back, leaning forward so she could see it in my eyes. The resolve, the fury, the clarity. "You thought you could strip me bare, ruin my name, and smile while doing it? I've done what you never expected. I paid attention." Gavin's voice cut in, stunned. "Lana, these withdrawals, are these from our accounts?" She winced. Her voice came out as a breath. "It's not what it looks like, Gavin." But we all knew it was exactly what it looked like. "You've been moving his money. My money." His hand shook as he brandished a stack of papers, fury radiating from his trembling grip. "A second mortgage on our house?" Lana didn't respond. Her eyes locked onto mine, blazing with a storm of disbelief and fury. "You bastard!" she spat, her voice low and venomous. "You've ruined everything." "No, Lana," I said, my voice steady but cold. "You're the one who tore it apart. I just made sure you finally pay the price." Then a piercing doorbell cut through the thick silence, ringing out from the front hall like a warning bell. My stomach turned to stone. Someone else. Another uninvited presence. Deep down, I knew who it would be. I'd felt it in my bones, even if I hadn't asked him to come. Whitney shot to her feet, nervously smoothing the front of her dress. I'll get it," she stammered, already halfway to the door. I followed her. The others trailed behind, heavy-footed and wary. Whitney yanked the door open, and there he stood, Tristan Reed, clad in a worn black leather jacket, hair a mess, face taut with guilt and defiance. "Whitney," he said quietly, eyes softening. "I need to talk." Then he noticed me behind her. His posture stiffened, voice tightening. "Carter, I know how this must look." Rage surged through me like electricity. This man had once been like a brother. I could still hear his voice in childhood jokes, midnight talks, the toasts at my wedding. And now, all those memories were tainted. I clenched my jaw until it hurt. "What are you doing here, Tristan?" I asked, my voice calm, unnervingly so. He flicked a glance toward Whitney, fumbling. I just wanted to twist things again?" I cut in, my tone rising. "To walk into my house like you didn't sleep with my wife while I was gone?" Panic flickered across his face. "It's not like that. Whitney told me you two were basically over." "Don't you dare lie to me." My voice was a snarl now. "I've got you on tape sneaking into my bedroom while I was at work. My daughter asked why Mommy's special friend keeps visiting." His face went ghost pale. "Carter, just listen." "I've heard enough," I shouted, surging forward, barely registering Whitney's cries behind me. "The only thing that matters is this. You betrayed me." The part of me that once forgave, made excuses, looked away. That man died the moment I saw my so-called best friend in my bed, in my home, with my wife. My hands balled into fists. Tristan didn't react fast enough. I rammed into him with my shoulder, driving him back into the frame of the door. The crack of wood splintering echoed through the house. Lana screamed. Aveline's voice rang out, sharp and urgent. "Stop it! This is insane!" But I was too far gone. I grabbed his jacket and swung hard, knuckles slamming into his jaw. Pain tore through my hand, but I barely noticed. He reeled, staggering backward. I didn't hesitate. Another punch, this one to his cheek, sent him tumbling down the steps. "Carter, have you lost your mind?" he cried. "No!" I growled, eyes blazing. "I've finally come to my senses." All those years, grinning across the backyard, laughing behind my back, pretending to be loyal. He thought I'd never push back? He reached out, maybe to beg, maybe to grab me. I didn't care. I yanked away and kicked the back of his leg. He dropped with a grunt, swearing under his breath. I stood over him, chest heaving, shaking with fury. Whitney screamed, "Stop! You'll kill him!" I turned on her, eyes hard. "Interesting," I snapped. "You never seemed that worried about me. Just him." Every part of me buzzed with fury and heartbreak. Tristan coughed violently, blood splattering the front steps. Still, it wasn't enough. I could still see it. His smug face at the grill, his mocking laugh while he lay with my wife. The images drove me over the edge. I bent down, fisted a chunk of his hair, and hissed, "You're done, do you hear me? You're finished." Before I could strike again, strong arms locked around me, pulling me back. Gavin and another pair of hands fought to restrain me. "Carter, stop!" Gavin panted. "He's not worth this." Tristan slumped against the railing, dabbing blood from his mouth, eyes wide with shock. He'd never seen me like this. None of them had. They hauled me back inside, my breath ragged, the fire in my chest still raging. Whitney rushed to Tristan's side, blind to the wreckage around her. Lana was sobbing uncontrollably. Aveline shouted in a panic, "I'm calling the police." "Go ahead," I spat. "Let's see how they feel about the evidence I have on your entire family." "Do it, Aveline." She froze, phone halfway to her ear. "You're threatening us?" she whispered. "Threatening?" I laughed, low and bitter. "No, I'm just stating facts. You call the cops, your family burns, fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, take your pick. Yes, I'll be facing an assault charge, that much is inevitable, but at least now, the whole truth will be on record. Every last piece of it. And trust me, I'll be walking out of that precinct long before you claw your way out of the disaster you created." The air went still. For a split second, time seemed to stop. Lana collapsed into a chair, burying her face in her hands. Aveline's eyes burned with rage, but her voice caught in her throat, and her phone slipped from her fingers, dangling uselessly by her side. Only Whitney made a sound. Quiet, broken sobs beside Tristan, who sat hunched, gently wiping blood from his busted lip. Gavin, exhausted and aged by the moment, dragged a hand down his weary face. "This can't be real," he mumbled. "Lana, please tell me you didn't actually help them steal from Carter." Lana nodded, a silent flood of tears tracking down her cheeks, then snapped, her grief morphing into fury. She whipped her head toward me and spit her words like venom. "You didn't have to turn this into some sick performance," she yelled. "You could have just walked away." "Walk away?" I barked, my arms slicing through the air in disbelief. "After everything you've done to me, you think I should just disappear quietly?" This wasn't about money. It never was. You all wanted to ruin me, drag my name through the mud, laugh behind my back, call me spineless in your little chats. Did any of you ever stop to think what happens when the so-called pushover finally fights back? No one answered, not even Aveline, who was rarely able to resist a biting comment. The silence was suffocating, the tension sharp enough to cut skin. Their lies were unraveling, their false sense of control slipping through their fingers. Whitney guided Tristan carefully to the couch. He averted his gaze, brushing the darkening bruise along his jaw. Whitney turned to me, her face streaked with tears. "I'm sorry, Carter," she said, barely audible. Her voice trembled like a snapped wire. "It just happened. Tristan was there and you—" Her words broke. "You were always so distant. I felt like I was completely alone." My voice sliced through her excuses. "Don't you dare blame this on me. When you needed financial help, I gave without hesitation. When you asked for space, I gave you that too. Everything you asked for, I gave freely. And in return, you mocked me. You conspired against me." A flash of rage twisted her features. "Fine," she snapped. "You want the truth? Yeah, we laughed at you. You had no clue. We never thought you'd actually grow a spine, let alone become this." "A monster?" I repeated, my laugh bitter and cold. "I didn't turn into a monster, Whitney. You built one with your lies. You think I wanted this? I didn't. But you pushed me into a corner. You left me with nothing. So I did what I had to do. I adapted. I became exactly what you made me." She trembled, the fight draining out of her as fear took its place. "You'll never get custody of Brielle," she hissed. "You've resorted to violence. No judge will hand her over to you now." I let the silence speak for a moment before slowly reaching into my jacket and pulling out my phone. The screen lit up with the messages, text chains between her and Aveline, schemes to bait me, plans to fake abuse stories for court. But that wasn't all. I had dates, timestamps, even voice recordings, video clips, proof of her betrayal, evidence of her and Tristan. This wasn't just betrayal, it was criminal. "You've lost everything," I said flatly. "And if you think for 1 second you can dangle Brielle like some kind of bargaining chip, I will drown you in legal filings so deep you'll forget what the sky looks like." My voice dropped, deadly calm. Don't test me. For the first time, true fear flickered in her eyes. This wasn't about shame or scandal anymore. She finally realized who she was up against. A father she had written off, now her worst enemy in a courtroom. The roast Aveline had made remained untouched on the dining table. No one even glanced at it. We all stayed there, frozen in that vast living room, surrounded by the collapse of our fake smiles and manufactured loyalties. Tristan stared at the floor, flinching as blood continued to stain his shirt collar. Lana's sobs were relentless. Aveline's icy expression had shattered entirely, cracks spreading across what used to be a perfectly composed facade. At last, Aveline cleared her throat, voice trembling with fake diplomacy. Let's take a moment. Carter, maybe we can talk. Find a way through this. We're still family. Not anymore, I said, my tone like stone. There will be no secret arrangements. You've destroyed every last bridge. Gavin turned slowly to Lana, disbelief clouding his face. You actually did this? He asked. You threw away our entire life. For what? A scheme? Lana's voice was barely a breath. Mom said it couldn't fail. Whitney swore you wouldn't find out. She trailed off, dissolving into full-blown sobs. But there was no remorse for what they'd done, just the pain of being exposed. Aveline pressed her fingers to her temples, as if she could force the chaos back into control. Her eyes flicked to mine, this time with something close to desperation. There has to be a way, she murmured. We can fix this, repay you, apologize. With what? I barked. The money's gone. Your apologies mean nothing now, just more lies in a different disguise. Her lips pressed into a firm line. We just need time to think. I didn't let her finish. No. Here's what's going to happen, I said. The divorce is finalized. You'll each get served before the week is out. My focus now is Brielle, her safety, her future. As for the fraud, that's separate. My lawyer's already building the case. All your little family-only chat logs, the parts about forging my signature, draining my savings, the prosecutor's going to eat it up. Aveline's face drained of color. You'd really lock up the mother of your child? That's heartless. She made her own bed, I said, my voice like steel. Still, maybe there's a path to negotiation. Get your lawyers involved. Lana doubled over slightly, clutching her stomach like the words had physically struck her. And what about me? I barely looked her way. Gavin, if you're serious, I'll put you in contact with my attorney. You can comb through the evidence yourself. He nodded silently, his expression hollow, the weight of reality sinking in. Lana seemed to shrink in her chair, as if trying to vanish. For a brief second, I almost felt sorry for him. He'd gotten tangled in the same web I once did. Tristan struggled to his feet, steadying himself with Whitney's arm. He seemed like he wanted to speak, his eyes searching mine, words failing on his tongue. Carter, But there was nothing left to say. No sentence would undo the damage. I turned my back, my pulse still surged with adrenaline, the kind that burns cold, part justice, part grief. I'd crossed a line I never thought I would, becoming someone who meets betrayal with strategy, not sorrow. My gaze shifted to Aveline. Don't even think about contacting me. Don't try to reach Brielle through back channels. If you so much as mention my name for leverage, I added, you'll be answering to law enforcement. Understood? She nodded, barely able to hide the panic in her eyes. Yes. Then I turned to Whitney. Her cheeks were streaked with tears, but the crying had passed. Now she just looked empty. Pack your things, I said quietly. Go stay with your mother, or with him. I gestured sharply toward Tristan. But don't return to my house unless it's for visitation, official and supervised, or to pick up your things with a cop present. Your days of comfort are done. Whitney looked like she wanted to protest, but the words never left her lips. She understood. It was over. Within the week, Miss Pierce filed a barrage of legal documents, restraining orders, custody petitions, lawsuits for fraud and embezzlement. Gavin joined our side, revealing even more layers of deception. The way Aveline and Whitney had stashed money? Beyond anything I'd imagined. The walls closed in fast. Tristan tried to reach out once, called my phone. I let it ring. He left a voicemail, some sentimental plea about our shared past. "We've been through everything together. Don't let it end like this." I deleted it. Didn't respond. Some wounds go too deep. Words spread like wildfire. Aveline became the target of a criminal investigation for orchestrating elaborate financial scams. She'd even forged her relatives' signatures to open credit lines. Lana spiraled when Gavin froze their finances and countersued. Their empire of luxury collapsed almost overnight. As for Tristan, his wife Nora finally saw the full picture. She'd suspected cheating, but never thought I'd be the one to expose it all. She filed for divorce immediately, took their 2 kids, and didn't stop there. She called every mutual friend, told them exactly what he'd done. Within weeks, the quiet neighborhood we all shared turned into a battleground of litigation. Depositions, asset seizures, private settlements behind closed doors. Aveline, Whitney, and Lana tried to negotiate. Miss Pierce shot down every offer. She demanded full restitution, said I had more to gain than I realized. But that wasn't my priority. Brielle was. I pushed for full custody, citing Whitney's manipulation, deceit, and emotional instability. The court reviewed the mountain of evidence and granted me sole custody, pending a full review. Whitney was granted only limited supervised visits. Supervised because the judge feared she might emotionally manipulate Brielle, or worse, take her. That was the final blow. Her crimes weren't just financial. She'd betrayed the sacred role of a mother. Using our child as a pawn, that was something no court could overlook. Months passed. I moved into a new house, not flashy, just real. A home where Brielle could feel safe. Painted her room the color she loved. Signed her up for art classes after school. I did everything I could to give her a calm, consistent life. Whitney tried to twist the story in court, claimed she was the victim, even pointed to my outburst at Aveline's as proof I was unstable. But Miss Pierce dismantled every accusation, producing months' worth of messages where Whitney openly joked about baiting me for use in court. The judge wasn't buying it. By then, public sympathy had vanished. No one stood by her or Aveline anymore. The fraud and theft charges were still in motion, and I was ready to testify when the day came. After one custody session, Whitney approached me in the corridor. Her mascara had run, hair unkempt, eyes hollow from sleepless nights. "Carter," she murmured. "I'm sorry. I know I screwed up. I don't want to lose Brielle. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "Stop," I cut in, my voice sharp as glass. "I'm not that man you once manipulated." She broke into fresh tears. The man I used to be might have offered a hand, tried to comfort her. But that man was gone. All I saw now was someone who'd lied, stolen, and laughed while doing it. "You made this mess," I said coldly. "Now face the consequences." Then I turned and walked away. About a week later, I saw Tristan outside a diner. He looked gaunt, exhausted, the faint scar from our last confrontation still visible on his cheek. He hadn't been eating, hadn't been sleeping either by the look of him. "Carter," he said, voice barely holding steady. I'm sorry." Everything unraveled. Nora, the kids, my career, all slipped through my fingers, and it was my fault. No excuses. Maybe it was the drinking, maybe the reckless decisions, probably both. Either way, I let everyone down, especially Whitney. She needed someone steady, and I was nowhere close. I slammed the car door shut and stalked toward him, stopping so close I could see the panic flash in his eyes. He recoiled, just a little, like he knew what was coming. "You didn't just mess up once," I said, voice low and tight. "You saw an opening and kept pushing. Again and again. For months." He swallowed hard, guilt radiating off him like heat. I know I can't take any of it back, he said, barely above a whisper. But we've known each other for years. If there's even a sliver of you that... I let out a dry, bitter laugh, cutting him off. I gave you everything, Tristan. My trust, my friendship. And you stomped all over it. And now, what? You want pity? Because your world's on fire? I'm fresh out. He gave a slow, resigned nod, eyes brimming. You're right. He turned to leave, but then stopped, reaching out and brushing my arm. I tensed, fists clenched. For a second, I almost swung again. Just, if you see Nora, he said, voice cracking, tell her I'm sorry. I pulled my arm away. That's not on me. If you want forgiveness, go find it yourself. But don't expect it from me. He walked off without another word, shoulders slumped, nothing left of the man I used to call my best friend. Just a shell. Once, a long time ago, we were inseparable, two kids who thought they were untouchable. Maybe deep inside some part of me mourned that. But that connection? It was long dead. I let him walk away, and I didn't look back. A few months later, the divorce finalized. I kept most of what we'd built together, the money, the assets, even part of the house sale. Some of it I had to fight for in court, but I got it. Whitney, Lana, and Aveline ended up facing charges. Lawyers were deep into negotiations for plea deals. And Brielle? She was thriving. New school, new passions, and a father who finally showed up, really showed up, in every way that mattered. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.